You don't need a luxury kitchen to prepare gourmet meals. I wanted a little on the sticky side. With a modest kitchen and some standard equipment, you can cook food that you would be proud to serve. There is my shrimp. All you need is a few helpful kitchen techniques, the ability to follow a recipe, a passion for food, and a fascination with cooking. Just follow along the rib cage. That is so good. My name is Dennis. I really do live in a mobile home, in a trailer park, and this is my kitchen. I was watching a TV show the other day. It wasn't a cooking show, but there was a chef on there. And what I saw the chef do was, quote unquote, spatchcock a chicken. And to do that, I had to look it up because I had never heard of that term before, spatchcock. You cut the backbone out of the chicken with some poultry shears so that you can then butterfly the chicken. You can lay it out flat, and then it's a lot easier to cook on a grill or a griddle. Like, for example, if you wanted to barbecue it on an outdoor grill. And a friend and I have been talking a lot lately about ways to cook Cornish game hens. And I thought this might be a good procedure for cooking Cornish game hens. I even saw a video where someone was taking the bones out of a Cornish game hen. It looked like it would be pretty easy to do. It would be easy to eat if it's boneless. That's what I want to try today. But the first thing I need to do is make my marinade for my chicken. I'm going to start off here with about half a cup, that's 120 milliliters roughly, of oil. This is corn oil, any cooking oil will do. And then a quarter cup of soy sauce. And about 3 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. Which should be about right there. Ooh, that smells good already. Put that in my bowl. And then to that, I want to add about 3 tablespoons of wine vinegar. I'm going to actually use tarragon vinegar. I don't use these little plastic tops. I'm not being exact here because this is not like baking. I don't have to be perfect. I need about 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. A lemon again from my neighbor's tree. Just get this squeezed out and get half of it on the counter as I always do. That'll be good enough. Clean up my mess. So there's my lemon juice in there. And then I want to add 2 tablespoons of mustard powder. No, 2 teaspoons. 2 teaspoons of mustard powder. I thought that was a lot, 2 tablespoons. This is just dry mustard. There's 2 teaspoons of mustard powder, roughly a half a teaspoon of salt. I'm just going to guess it with my hand. I'm going to grind plenty of black pepper in there. You need about a teaspoon of black pepper. I would say anywhere from half a teaspoon to a teaspoon should be enough. And then I want to put 2 sprigs of fresh parsley in there. However, I don't want to use those as is because I want to get the juice out of them. So I'm going to take out my mortar and pestle here. You can do this stems and all. Break the larger stems off, because this is going to be crushed down and then taken out later on. So I just want to break this down into a nice mash, because that'll release the juice. I can see it wet already in there. I want to get the juice out of those parsley sprigs so I can get the flavor into my marinade. This is going to take a minute or two to get all crushed down nicely. That looks good. Get a spatula down. Set that aside. Return to my marinade. And before I put the parsley in there, I just want to give this a quick mix with a whisk. And now I can put my parsley in there. Oh, it has a nice fragrance to it already. And that is my marinade, very quickly done. Now I'm ready to prepare my chicken. So how to spatchcock a chicken or a Cornish game hen. Turn it over onto its breast. There's a backbone in here. This is the vertebra. This is the pelvis in here. You need some good poultry shears. Starting on one side of the tail, you just cut right down along the side of that vertebra column. This chicken has such delicate bones that they're easy to cut through. I'm cutting through rib bones as well here. And that's it. That's the backbone and the vertebra taken out. I'm going to put that in a bowl of trim I'm keeping to the side. Clean out any spare parts that are in there. That looks like a piece of liver. And then you could stop right there if you wanted to, because there you have a nice piece of chicken that you can just lay out and cook on the grill. As I said, you can stop right there, or you can get as fussy as you want. I'm going to actually debone the entire chicken. That's unnecessary. Once the chicken is spatchcocked, opened up, butterflied, it's ready for the grill. I prefer chicken that's boneless when I eat it, so I'm going to do all the fussy work, but I'm not going to video it because it'll use a lot of video time. And I already have on YouTube a video for how to debone a chicken. It's basically the same process. I'm just doing it on a smaller chicken. That's all. I have a bowl that I use specifically for this because it's just the right size. This is a 1 gallon Ziploc bag. It fits in there perfectly. Put my chicken pieces in there. There's my 2 chickens. And then carefully pour my marinade in there. Carefully, because I don't want it to overflow. And it didn't. Perfect. Wonderful. Now, take my bag out. Get some of the air out of this bag without squirting marinade all over my counter. There we go. Seal the bag. And that's it. So there's my chicken marinating in there. I'll leave that in there for a while I'm making the stuffing next. Every once in a while I'll just turn that over to distribute that marinade to make sure that it marinates evenly. I wanted to mention that these 2 Cornish game hens weighed together with the bone in came out to between 3.5 to 4 pounds, which is about 1.6 to 1.8 kilograms. I know I need about 2 cups of cubed cornbread, but I don't know what that weighs. I know people in other countries like to know what the metric equivalents are. So I've got my scale set up. And I'll give you a metric weight equivalent as soon as I know what it is. And this is feeling really good as far as cornbread goes. I can tell it's a little bit stale. Put a little bit more in there, maybe half of one of these. I'll save the rest for snacking. And I may even add more later, I don't know. In the meantime, I am melting 1 cup of stock. I have some frozen homemade stock on the stove. You know, I'm going to use the rest of this. It's chicken stock, because I like the flavor of it in stuffing. There, a nice 2 cups, and that is 5.2 ounces. Let me get you the metric equivalent of that. When I write up this recipe and put it on my website, I'll write up the recipe that I used for making my own cornbread. However, buy pretty near any box of cornmeal, and usually you'll see on the side a recipe for making cornbread. That's almost exactly what I did when I made my cornbread. So here are my 2 cups plus of cubed cornbread. I did weigh this. It came out to 5.2 ounces, which was 147 grams. I threw in the crumbs as well, so figure 150 grams on the cornbread. And then this is my thawed chicken stock. I have 1 cup in there. I'm only going to put about half to 3/4 in there. Going to leave some in the pan. I want to see what's going to happen, how much moisture my cornbread is going to absorb there. I'll keep stirring that. If that absorbs all that moisture, I'll add a little bit more. I'm using my own homemade chicken stock because I have a lot of it in the freezer. Whenever I work with chicken, I buy whole chickens, and just like I did with these hens, I save all the trim, I put that in the freezer, and when I get enough, I make a big pot of chicken stock and then freeze that in 1 cup portions. If you don't want to make your own stock, or if you don't have any homemade stock, you can buy the chicken broth that they have in the store. It's best to try to find the low sodium kind, because then you can control the salt in your, in this case, stuffing. I want to put about half of an onion. This is a medium onion. I'm going to use half of this. Because I don't want a lot of onion in my stuffing. There we go. Get all that peeled off. And then to cut this or chop it, I'm going to do a kind of a medium chop because I do like the texture of onions in my stuffing. So I'm not going to dice this too fine. And there we go. That'll be good enough. Set that aside in my bowl. And then I can do my celery next. I have here 1 rib or stalk of celery. This is pretty good size. I wouldn't call it a medium. It's not quite a large, but I like the texture of celery in this cornmeal stuffing, especially because the cornmeal might get kind of mushy with the stock in it. So I'm just dicing this into a fairly small dice. And there's my celery. I have 3 good-sized mushrooms here. You can use 3 or 4 mushrooms. You can chop these up or slice them up. I'm going to slice them up because, again, I'm not going to push this stuffing into the chicken. I'm just going to spoon it into a bowl and then heat it up when I'm ready to serve. All the ingredients will be cooked, so I don't have to worry about cooking it. And if you do put it inside of the chickens, then you have to bring the temperature up to 168, 170 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know what the Celsius is on that. I can find out if you need me to, but you got to get it to a safe temperature. But by cooking everything in advance and then just assembling it, I don't have to worry about getting it to a safe temperature. I just have to heat it up when I'm ready to serve. Check it out. This one's a bit of a mutant, but I brought the extra leftover cornbread to my neighbor. She gave me more lemons off of her lemon tree. I'll have lemons all summer long. I'm heating a large skillet here on the stove. I'm going to put a few tablespoons, maybe a couple tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. No, that's pure olive oil, not extra virgin. I always save the extra virgin for flavoring. I'm going to put my onions in there. And I can give you a metric equivalent on the onions. They came out to, you need about 3 to 4 ounces cut up, which is about 85 to 113 grams. I'm going to fry these for 5 to 6 minutes, just until they're tender and translucent. So there are my onions. I'm going to turn my heat off under those. These are what I would call crisp tender. I'm not really fussy about texture in food the way some people are. Some people are fixated on texture. I'm not, but I do want some texture to my stuffing. I don't want it to be just wet bread and soggy vegetables. Returning back to my pan. Same thing, I'm just going to cook my celery here for a little bit just to get it somewhat softened up so it's not too crunchy in my stuffing. This will maybe same thing, 5-6 minutes. Next, I want to cook the mushrooms, and I know mushrooms will absorb a lot of fat, so I'm going to put a good tablespoon or 2 of butter in there to saute the mushrooms, because that'll give the mushrooms a nice flavor. How do you like my new pan? I bought this for doing videos. The old one was getting just a little bit too worn out. And these will cook for just 2 to 3 minutes, just until they're tender. I bought some parsley last night that I put in water as soon as I got it home. And this is about 3 sprigs here of parsley, because this has really large leaves on it. I'm going to chop this up pretty fine. And this is going to go into my stuffing. I did the same thing. I bought some sage last night and put it in water. This came with the root on, which is nice. But these leaves are kind of small. So I have 9 sage leaves here. And I'm not going to chop these up as fine as the parsley, because I love sage in stuffing. And that's good enough right there. Add that to my parsley and I'm done. That's my prep work. I'm ready now to return my attention back to my stuffing. I added the remainder of that chicken stock in there, and it absorbed all the liquid. So now here are the onions, the mushrooms, the celery that I sauteed earlier. This is my celery, not my celery, this is my parsley rather, and my chopped fresh sage. I'm going to add some golden raisins to this. I thought a little bit would help out. This is about half of a cup, 57 grams of golden raisins. I think the little bit of sweetness in there would be good. And then if you want to, you can add some nuts to your stuffing. I happen to have some slivered almonds that I've had for a while. They're still good, so I'm going to put some slivered almonds in there. That's maybe half that package. The package is 3 ounce, so that's about 1.5 ounces or 43 grams. I do want to season this with some pepper. And then get out my tasting spoon. Get this mixed up. I want to taste a little bit of this. I know it's going to need some salt. Yeah, because I make my stock without salt. So put a good pinch of salt in there. Oh, even without the salt in there, that is tasting good. One more taste. Fantastic. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to transfer this now to a shallow baking dish. And as I said, you can bake this, but because this is all cooked ingredients, there's no raw meat in there, I am going to just press this down, put a lid on it, like that, and then heat that in the microwave. I've got my griddle heating on the stove here. So if I can lay these down the right way. Wonderful. Okay, these have to cook to an internal temperature. I want to check the meat after about maybe 6-8 minutes per side. I want to get it up to about 160 degrees inside the meat. Let me give you the metric for that. 160 degrees Fahrenheit is 71 degrees Celsius. That would be a safe serving temperature for this chicken. I never get to use these square glass plates, but I am today. So here is an entire Cornish game hen. Look at those bar marks. Isn't that pretty? And then some of my stuffing that's all heated up, hot and ready to eat. And then what I made rather as another side dish, because I really like this with chicken. This is rice with peas in it. And that is a big plate of food. Can't wait to see how that chicken tastes. There it is. This has got to taste good. Chicken first. I can taste the marinade, but it's mild. Now I've got to taste my stuffing, my cornbread stuffing. That's even better. Oh, that is so good. So, excuse me, I'm just in time for lunch. I'm going to go enjoy my Cornish game hen and cornbread stuffing. For a printable PDF copy of this recipe with step-by-step photographs, visit the White Trash Cooking website and look on the home page or in the recipe archive.